There is a moment, subtle and invisible to most, when the body begins to no longer operate under the laws of the world it once obeyed. Movement becomes intentional. Silence grows louder than noise, and presence becomes more powerful than performance. This moment is not an accident. It is the sign of inner maturity, a sign that the seeker has walked the path long enough for the path to begin walking through them. If you find yourself waking in the middle of the night with clarity, detaching from drama without regret, or walking away from noise without explanation, understand this: you are not falling apart. You are shifting. You are remembering who you were before the conditioning. And your body is preparing to enter the fifth dimension. The signs are not always dramatic. They are not always beautiful. But they are always clear. To the one who sees with the inner eye, let us explore these signs, not to feed curiosity, but to honor the transformation already unfolding within you. The first and perhaps most essential sign that your body is entering the fifth dimension is a noticeable shift in how you relate to the world around you. Where once you lived in constant reaction, quick to anger, quick to defend, quick to fear, you now find a stillness rising from within. It doesn't announce itself loudly. It appears quietly, almost secretly. You begin to notice that your first instinct is no longer to push back, but to pause. No longer to fight, but to observe. No longer to collapse into emotional chaos, but to breathe through it. This is not because the world has become more peaceful. The challenges remain. The frustrations still appear. The people who once tested your patience may still be present. But something fundamental within you has shifted. The old programming, react without thinking, speak without awareness, judge without understanding, no longer holds power over you. The inner space between what happens and how you choose to respond has widened. And in that space, your freedom has returned. To live in reaction is to live in chains. A word from someone else can ruin your entire day. A delay in plans can pull you into frustration. A harsh tone, an unexpected event, a calmly uncomment on social media. Each of these external events has the power to control your internal world. This is how the third dimension operates. The external defines the internal. But when your body enters the fifth dimension, the source of power reverses. It is no longer the outside that defines you. It is the inside that governs how you meet the outside. This transition often begins with discomfort. You catch yourself mid-reaction. You feel the impulse to shout, to defend, to withdraw. But something holds you. A moment, a sudden awareness. That moment is the gateway. That is presence awakening. Only an uncommon soul. You may not always act perfectly. You may still feel triggered. But now you are aware that you are triggered, and that awareness is the seed of transformation. What you're truly cultivating is the discipline of energy. In the fifth dimension, energy is sacred. Your attention, your words, your emotions. These are not random waves. They are tools. Weapons when misused. Medicine when mastered. You begin to realize that giving your energy to anger is draining your life force. That speaking in reaction is casting seeds of chaos. That every time you let the world dictate your emotional state, you surrender your sovereignty. Now, you are reclaiming it. You listen more than you speak. Not because you have nothing to say, but because silence has become your teacher. You breathe before you respond, not out of fear, but out of care. You begin to ask questions like, is this reaction necessary? Or, is this worth my peace? These are not signs of avoidance. They are signs of strength. You are no longer trying to win arguments. You are trying to win yourself back. And something remarkable happens. Your body cooperates. Your breath deepens. Your heart slows. Your muscles relax. The grip of fight or flight begins to dissolve. Where stress once lived in your shoulders and jaw, now space and softness begin to appear. Your body is no longer on high alert. It is learning to trust the stillness. You are not just mentally responding with awareness. You are embodying it. There is an old saying, when the mind is silent, the sword becomes sharp. In the fifth dimension, your silence is not emptiness. It is precision. It allows you to see clearly, choose wisely, and move decisively. No wasted words. No reckless actions. Your life begins to feel deliberate. Not from control, but from clarity. Others may not understand this change. They may say you've become distant, quiet, indifferent. But you are not distancing yourself from others. You are simply no longer tied to their emotional turbulence. You are creating inner space. Space that allows you to move through the world with grace instead of reaction, with peace instead of panic. This is not something you force. It is something you nurture, with discipline, with breath, with repeated practice of coming back to this present moment again and again. Eventually, what was once effort becomes your nature. Your nervous system reprograms. Your impulses evolve. You realize that you do not need to fight the storm. You need only to remain centered within it. That is the first sign. A quiet, a powerful shift from chaos to calm, from ego to essence, from reaction to realization. And once that shift takes root, everything in your life begins to change. Because you are changing. In a world that constantly demands your attention, that only an uncommon soul, there comes a rare moment when the volume of the outside world no longer overpowers the quiet voice within. This is the second sign that your body is entering the fifth dimension. Your inner world becomes louder than the external noise. It doesn't happen all at once. It builds slowly, like a whisper growing into a wind, like a ripple becoming a wave. At first, you barely notice it. But then, you begin to realize that even in chaos, your center remains undisturbed. The fifth dimension is not a place you arrive at. It is a depth you awaken to. And one of its most profound gifts is the ability to listen inwardly, even when everything outside is pulling you in 100 directions. Most people live externally. Their thoughts are borrowed from the news, from opinions, from fears that are not even theirs. They absorb the anxiety of others. They carry the pressure of expectations. They are pushed and pulled by trends, gossip, urgency, distraction. This is the nature of a mind entangled in the third dimension. It is reactive, unfocused, and restless. But when your inner world begins to speak louder than all that, you are not the same person anymore. You start to hear something deeper, something calmer. It is not thought in the traditional sense. It is a knowing, a gentle certainty. It's like the beneath the storm. It remains unmoved even as winds howl above it. This shift is subtle. You don't wake up shouting, "I have changed." No, the transformation is quieter. You begin choosing solitude not because you're escaping others, but because you found someone within yourself worth listening to. You begin turning off the noise. Not because you're avoiding the world, but because your inner frequency demands clarity. It becomes harder to entertain drama. Gossip begins to taste bitter. Even your old desires, status, attention, validation, start to feel heavy, unnecessary. You aren't losing interest in life. You're gaining interest in truth. And truth speaks softly. Your body begins to reflect this inward pull. The nervous system shifts. The senses sharpen. The need to prove yourself lessens. You find yourself sitting in silence, not needing to fill it. You walk through a crowded street, and rather than feeling overwhelmed, you feel rooted. Like the noise no longer penetrates you. Because something within you is now louder, stronger, more consistent. This does not mean you disconnect from the world. Unman soul, it means you relate to it from a deeper foundation. You still hear the world's noise, but you are no longer ruled by it. You hear the opinions, but you are not bound by them. You feel the urgency, but you are not rushed. You witness the fear, but you are not consumed. You begin to live not as a reaction to the world, but as a statement of your own presence. That presence is not made of words. It is not loud, but it is unmistakably powerful. From this state, decisions come from alignment, not pressure. Words come from intention, not impulse. Movement arises from clarity, not confusion. You begin to carry yourself differently. not with arrogance, but with quiet dignity. You're not shouting to be seen. You are still and yet visible. You are no longer chasing the next moment, because you've made peace with this one. There is a phrasing, still waters run deep. When your inner world becomes louder than the external world, you begin to live like still water. Reflective, deep, powerful without needing to prove it. You are no longer seduced by the noise of the world, because you've tasted the depth of stillness. And that stillness speaks with such truth that the lies of the external world can no longer hold power over you. This is not just a mental or spiritual state. It is an embodied experience. Your body begins to operate differently. The grip of survival starts to release. You sleep deeper, breathe fuller, move slower but with purpose. You are not trying to escape life. You are finally arriving in it. Completely. There will be moments when the noise tries to pull you back. The world will still try to distract you, provoke you, hook you. But once the voice within has been heard, you cannot unhear it. Once the inner world has been tasted, the outer world loses its addictive grip. This is the second sign. The volume of the outside fades, and the whisper within becomes your guide. When the body begins to align with higher states of consciousness, it naturally moves toward what is pure. This is not the result of rules, restrictions, or rigid discipline. It is not forced. It is not coming from guilt or fear. It is a silent yearning that rises from within, quiet but firm. It's as if the body, once clouded by noise and impulse, begins to remember its original state. A clarity emerges, and from this clarity a longing for purity is born. At first, it shows up in subtle ways. You might notice that certain foods no longer bring the same satisfaction. The heaviness that once felt comforting now feels burdensome. The craving for sugar, processed meals, or stimulants begins to dissolve, not because you force it to, but because the body starts speaking with a new language. It no longer begs for intensity. It seeks lightness. It wants to feel clean, energized, and balanced. And this is not just physical hunger. It is energetic desire. The body doesn't just want calories, it wants frequency. This shift is not limited to diet. Thoughts begin to change as well. The mind starts rejecting what is toxic. Conversations built on complaint or comparison feel draining. The dramas that once entertained now feel like distractions. The stories that loop in your mind, based on fear, anger, or lack, begin to lose their grip. And in that space, something softer emerges, a curiosity for truth, a thirst for clarity, a pull towards silence. The mind becomes less noisy and more refined, like water becoming still after being stirred for too long. You begin to seek different environments, places that are cluttered, loud, chaotic. They unsettle you. You can feel the distortion in the air, not just through your senses, but through your entire field of awareness. It's not about judgment. It's not about superiority. It's simply that the vibration no longer resonates with what you are becoming. Just as a person recovering from illness cannot tolerate certain smells or noises, your evolving being can no longer tolerate spiritual pollution. Purity is not perfection. It is presence. It is cleanliness not only in the outer sense, but in your choices, your habits, your energy. You become more aware of the energy you bring into spaces and the energy you allow into yours. You become selective, not from ego, but from integrity. You no longer wish to feed yourself anything through the eyes, the ears, the mouth, or the mind that brings fog to your clarity. You are beginning to protect the sacred within you, not with force, but with understanding. As this inner transformation deepens, your habits begin to evolve without struggle. You drink more water not because a rule told you to, but because your body asks for it. You move your body not to punish it, but to awaken it. You sleep deeply not from exhaustion, but from alignment. You become sensitive to the energy in food, in people, in conversations. You listen more to how things feel rather than how they appear. You sense vibration before words, energy before meaning. This sensitivity is not weakness. It is awakening. Many people fear sensitivity. They see it as a burden. But sensitivity is strength when coupled with clarity. When you are sensitive and pure, you are able to discern truth without confusion. You are able to walk into a room and feel if something is off. You are able to read between the lines of someone's words. You are able to feel when a situation, a habit, a food, or a person is out of alignment with your evolution. And from that place, you choose, not from fear, but from resonance. You begin to make space in your life for what nourishes you. Nature begins to call you more often. The sunrise feels different. The air after rain feels sacred. A simple moment of silence becomes a ceremony. Life begins to purify itself through you. The body, the mind, the spirit, no longer separate entities but a unified field, start moving in one direction upward. Toward what is real. Toward what is clean. Toward what is whole. This craving for purity is not about escaping the world. It is about engaging with the world from a deeper place, from a space of refinement, of reverence. You are no longer looking to consume blindly. You are choosing what you digest, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And as you purify your intake, you elevate your output. Your presence becomes more clear, your words more meaningful, your actions more intentional. This is not a temporary shift. This is a new foundation, one that your being will continue to build upon. And it began the moment you listened, truly listened, to the body's quiet but certain call, I want to feel light. I want to be whole. I want to be aligned. That is the third sign. The body has remembered its truth, and now it moves toward what sustains the soul. There comes a moment in your inner development when the old structure of time begins to dissolve. It is not dramatic. It is not something you control. It happens gradually, like fog lifting from a mountain's face. You begin to experience moments not in terms of hours, but in terms of depth. Time stops being a number on a clock and becomes sensation in your body. You are no longer driven by the ticking of minutes, but by the unfolding of awareness. You are entering a dimension where presence reshapes your relationship with time. At first, it's confusing. You might find yourself sitting in silence for 5 minutes that feels like an hour, or walking alone for an hour that feels like 5 minutes. You lose the ability to measure time the way you used to. You're not distracted. You're immersed. The noise of the world begins to quiet down, and in that stillness, something timeless emerges. A space where thoughts slow down, breath deepens, and the moment stretches like the horizon. This is not a trick of the mind. It is a natural effect of spiritual alignment. When you become fully present, the linear concept of time loses its grip. You are no longer split between past regret and future anticipation. Your energy returns from both directions and gathers in the now. And when you are truly here, fully here, time bends around you, not the other way around. In this fifth dimensional awareness, time becomes fluid. It is no longer fixed like a train schedule. It flows according to your state of being. If you are tense, time feels tight. If you are open, time expands. You begin to realize that your perception of time is linked to your level of consciousness. A shallow mind lives in short moments. A deep presence stretches time, not outwardly, but inwardly. In this space, a single breath can hold eternity. This shift is subtle, but powerful. You begin to notice that rushing becomes unnecessary. There is no need to hurry when you are aligned. Everything arrives when it's meant to. Every meeting, every word, every realization comes with divine precision. Your life no longer runs on a schedule dictated by fear or anxiety. It unfolds like a dance, one step at a time, guided not by pressure, but by rhythm. You become more patient, not because you try to be, but because you feel the richness of now. You stop waiting for the next moment to bring you peace. You realize it's already here. This moment, in its fullness, contains all the answers you used to chase. You don't need to speed up life anymore. You just need to be still enough to receive it. Presence becomes your teacher. Time, your mirror. This also affects how you look at your past. What once seemed heavy begins to dissolve. You no longer feel trapped by who you were. The memories lose their sharp edges. You can visit them without becoming them. Likewise, the future no longer holds the weight of uncertainty. You don't fear it, because you trust the path is unfolding exactly as it should. When you live in the now, the past and future stop fighting for your attention. Peace replaces pressure. Tasks that used to feel like burdens begin to flow. You get more done, but feel less drained, not because time changed, but because your awareness did. Focus increases. Distractions fade. You enter a zone where action and awareness merge into one. This is the realm of effortlessness. Not because nothing is required, but because nothing is wasted. You begin to notice nature lives this way. The tree does not rush to grow. The river does not try to be faster. The sun rises and sets without anxiety. And yet everything is done. Everything arrives on time. You start to align with this intelligence. You no longer chase time. You become timeless within it. Eventually, you realize that time is not something outside of you. It's something shaped by your internal state. If you are fragmented, time breaks into pieces. If you are whole, time unites. And the more whole you become, the more time bends to reflect your stillness. In stillness, there is eternity. In eternity, there is peace. This bending of time is not an escape. It is a return to what is real, to what always was. And in that return, your soul breathes freely again, not racing ahead, not holding back, just here, alive, unfolding. That is the fourth sign. You are no longer a prisoner of time. You are becoming a master of presence. There are moments in life when reality begins to whisper. A name you were just thinking of appears in a message. A song plays on the radio with the exact words you needed to hear. You walk into a bookstore, and the first book your hand just carries the answer to a question buried deep inside you. These are not coincidences. These are not random. These are synchronicities. Gentle signs from a higher frequency, guiding you with quiet precision. When the body begins to transition into the fifth dimension, you become more attuned to these moments. The veil between thought and manifestation becomes thinner. What used to take months or years to unfold now begins to appear almost instantly. But only if you are paying attention. Only if you are still enough to notice the soft choreography of the universe. Synchronicities are not forced. They arrive when your internal vibration matches the flow of life. You don't chase them. You don't try to make them happen. You live in alignment and they naturally begin to occur. Like the way petals open in the morning light. Not because they try, but because the sun is near. At first, it may seem strange. You may feel that life is becoming almost magical. But it's not magic. It's mastery. You are beginning to tune in, not just with your eyes and ears, but with your inner instrument. And when that instrument is clear, it picks up subtle signals from the field of life. These signals guide your actions, confirm your direction, and protect your steps. A person entering the fifth dimension becomes a listener. You begin to recognize that silence speaks louder than noise, that the universe speaks in symbols, numbers, patterns, and energy. You become like a traveler in a foreign land, learning the language of light. Slowly, respectfully, attentively. Every moment holds a lesson. Every encounter carries meaning. Synchronicities often appear in the form of guidance. A delay in plans that later saves you from harm. A sudden opportunity that redirects your life's purpose. An encounter with a stranger who offers a sentence that changes your path. You don't always understand in the moment. But later, when the pieces connect, you look back in awe. You see how every twist in the road was exactly where you needed to be. This is how the fifth dimension teaches you trust. You no longer live only from logic. You begin to live from intuition, from inner knowing, from subtle nudges that can't be explained, only experienced. The intellect doubts, but the heart knows, And in this dimension, the heart becomes your compass. A soft, a powerful compass that always points toward your higher self. One of the deepest realizations during this transition is that the universe is not random. It is responsive. Life is not happening to you. It is happening with you. And the more conscious you become, the more clearly life responds. Synchronicity is the echo of your inner vibration reflected outward. Change the frequency of your thoughts, and you change the pattern of your experience. But be careful. Synchronicities are not meant to be controlled. They are not tools for manipulation. They are invitations to alignment. You don't summon them with ego. You welcome them with humility. They are signs that you are moving in harmony with your soul, that you are stepping into a deeper intelligence beyond the limits of the mind. As you begin to live this way, life starts to feel more alive, not more dramatic, but more meaningful. You see the thread connecting moments, people, and possibilities. You begin to feel held even in uncertainty, supported even in silence, and that support becomes your strength. You walk slower, but with more certainty. You speak less, but with more truth. The fifth dimension is not a destination. It is a way of seeing, a way of being, a way of listening. And synchronicities are the breadcrumbs along the path, reminding you that you are not lost, that your steps are guided, that your presence is enough. So the next time something strange happens, when a thought instantly appears as reality, when a problem meets its solution unexpectedly, when a moment feels orchestrated with divine timing, pause. Don't rush past it. Don't dismiss it. Breathe. Feel it, and say quietly to yourself, I am seen. I am connected. I am being led. That is the fifth sign. You are no longer wandering, only an uncommon soul. You are walking with the rhythm of the universe. You are beginning to remember the forgotten language of energy. And that language is now speaking through you. There comes a moment on the inner path where control begins to feel heavy. Like carrying stones in your hands, the more you try to manage, force, or manipulate your surroundings, the more exhausted you become. And yet, you keep holding on, because control gave you a sense of safety. It made you feel as if you could predict, avoid, or conquer what might go wrong. Uncommon soul. But when your body starts aligning with the fifth dimension, something shifts within. You begin to notice that true strength isn't found in control. It is found in surrender. Not the surrender of weakness, but the surrender of wisdom. You begin to understand that life is not a problem to be solved, but a flow to be joined. In the earlier stages of your journey, control might have been necessary. It served a function. It gave you structure and discipline. But now, that same structure begins to limit you. The fifth dimension invites you to dissolve rigidity, not through rebellion, but through trust. Trust is not something you can fake. It's not a performance, it's an inner letting go. A quiet exhale that says, I don't need to force this. When you reach this place, you realize how much of your suffering came from resistance. The resistance to what is. The constant mental warfare against the natural unfolding of life. In the fifth dimension, presence is the new power. You no longer feel the need to predict every outcome. You don't ask, what if it doesn't work? Instead, you ask, what am I being shown now? Your questions become more curious, less fearful. You don't try to manipulate the river. You learn to swim with it. Letting go of control doesn't mean you become passive. On the contrary, you become even more engaged, but without tension. Like a martial artist who has trained for years, your movements become relaxed, intentional, and precise. There is no panic in your action, no chaos in your choices. You act, and then you release the outcome. This is what it means to trust and allow. You begin to see life as a dance, not a battle. You learn to listen to timing, to energy, to signs. You make space for the unknown without trying to immediately define it. That only an uncommon soul, you step into uncertainty, not with fear, but with presence. Why? Because you've tasted the deeper intelligence that guides all things. You've seen how, Even when your plans failed, something greater often unfolded. And that's the point. You stop fighting with life. You stop believing that you must be the architect of every single detail. Instead, you focus on being the clearest channel for alignment. You focus on being awake, honest, grounded, and from that clarity, right action naturally arises. You don't push, you participate. Control is rooted in fear. Trust is rooted in experience. And when you experience enough moments of divine timing, of effortless alignment, of unexpected grace, trust no longer remains a concept, it becomes your default state. You also begin to trust yourself, your inner knowing, your body's signals, your intuitive guidance. You realize that you don't need to understand everything immediately. Not everything must be figured out. Some answers need time. Some paths require patience, so you stop rushing. You stop forcing. And the moment you stop grasping, life starts unfolding with ease. This surrender brings peace, an uncommon soul. Not the peace of everything going your way, but the peace of knowing you'll be okay, even when it doesn't. It's the unshakable calm of one who has stepped out of the storm of mental control and into the stillness of inner wisdom. To allow is not to give up. To allow is to align. It's to step out of the mind's constant commentary and into the body's quiet knowing. And from that place, your presence becomes magnetic. You begin to attract, not chase. You draw in experiences, people, and opportunities not because you need them, but because you are now resonating with them. This is the sixth sign. The body stops clenching. The breath deepens. The heartbeat slows. The energy softens. You move through the world with grace, not because you control it, but because you are finally flowing with it. And this is the quiet revolution within. You no longer seek control. You trust. You allow. And through that, you discover a strength that cannot be broken. The strength of surrender. There is a profound transformation that occurs when the internal begins to overtake the external. It cannot be seen with the eyes, yet it is felt by all who come near you. This shift is not loud, not dramatic. It is subtle, yet powerful. When your body enters alignment with the fifth dimension, you begin to understand that energy speaks before words ever do. In the lower dimensions, expression is dominated by language. You try to explain, convince, or defend yourself. You rely on tone, volume, and clarity. But in higher awareness, something different emerges. The body no longer needs to assert. It radiates. You begin to live in a state of coherence, where thought, emotion, and behavior are in harmony. This inner harmony becomes a field, a frequency that others feel instantly. You walk into a room and the air changes. People may not know why, but they feel it. Some are drawn to you without knowing what pulls them in. Others feel uncomfortable because your stillness mirrors the chaos they carry. Your energy becomes a mirror, and not all are ready to look into it. And yet, you do not seek to attract or repel. You simply are. That beingness is your message. This is not something you fabricate. It is not charisma or charm. It's not about being liked. It's about being real. Completely real. When you are fully present, without masks or manipulation, the body becomes an instrument of truth. And truth has no need to shout. It only needs to be. You begin to notice that people feel safe around you. Not because you say the right things, but because your presence carries no judgment, an uncommon soul. Your nervous system is not projecting threat. You're not unconsciously trying to dominate or impress. You're simply rooted, grounded, awake. In this way, your very presence becomes a form of healing. Animals recognize this instantly. Children do, too. They sense what most adults have forgotten: the language beneath language. This is the realm of the fifth dimension. It is not about doing more, but being more. When your energy is aligned with inner peace, there is nothing to hide and nothing to prove. This also means you are more careful with your thoughts, your intentions, and your inner dialogue. Because you realize it all leaks into your field. There is no such thing as hidden energy. If you hold resentment, it will speak through your posture. If you carry anxiety, it will tremble in your tone. But when you live from clarity, people feel your words before they hear them. Your energy leads the way. The path to this state requires purification. You must cleanse the emotional noise, the mental debris, the reactions born from ego. As you do, your frequency rises, not artificially, but organically. Just as a muddy river clears, when left undisturbed, your energy clarifies when you stop resisting your own truth. And this clarity does not require perfection. It only requires honesty. If you are sad, be sad without shame. If you are joyful, be joyful without grasping. If you are confused, allow it without collapsing. This radical honesty makes your energy clean, and clean energy is unmistakable. It feels like silence in a noisy world. It feels like ease in a world of striving. When your energy becomes your message, you also start listening differently. You no longer hear just words. You feel behind them. You sense where someone speaks from fear, love, confusion, or truth. You no longer react to tone. You respond to essence. Communication becomes deeper, and often fewer words are needed. Some people call this presence. Others call it aura. Whatever the name, it is not mystical. It is practical. It comes from doing the inner work to live in alignment. It is the quiet confidence that comes from knowing yourself deeply and standing in that knowing. As this grows in you, you stop chasing validation. You stop editing yourself to be accepted. You stop pretending. Because when your energy speaks clearly, there is no need for performance. People who resonate with your frequency will find you. Those who don't will drift away. You begin to trust this natural flow, and you stop trying to manage perceptions. This is freedom. Not the freedom to do anything, but the freedom to be fully yourself. And in this state, every moment becomes a message. Not in what you say, but in how you live, how you breathe, how you see the world. You become the message, a living transmission of inner peace. In the fifth dimension, this is what matters most. Not your achievements, not your image, not your opinions, but your vibration. The world is changing, and the language of energy is becoming louder than words. The ones who will lead, guide, and uplift are those who, understanding their energy, speaks first. So watch your energy, not in fear but in reverence. Honor it, nourish it, protect it. And as you do, only an uncommon soul, you will no longer need to say much. You will walk into spaces, and simply by being there, you will shift them.